Dear students, today we will be understanding CBSE Class 6 IT chapter on Introduction to Algorithms. This will be your first step in the world of computer programming. So let's start. Okay, so now let's try to understand what is algorithm. In our everyday life, we perform certain tasks, right? We follow certain steps. Like for example, in the morning when you need to brush your teeth, right? There are also some steps that you follow to brush your teeth. First you go pick up the brush, then take the toothpaste. Third step, like you apply toothpaste on the brush. Fourth, you brush your teeth. Fifth, you rinse your mouth, right? So these are the set of some steps that you follow to complete a task. What is your task? To brush your teeth. So in the similar way, algorithms are the set of well-defined steps. What are they? Algorithms are a set of well-defined steps which can be followed to solve a problem or complete a task. So an algorithm is a set of well-defined steps which can be followed to solve a problem or complete any required task. Clear? Algorithms are very important to write computer programs. How? Let's try to understand that. First, let us understand what is a computer program. Computer program is a set of instructions given to the computer to do certain tasks. Okay, so a computer program is a set of instruction given to the computer to carry out any task, and these instructions are given in a language which is understood by computers. Like computers doesn't understand our language, right? So we have to give this set of instructions to computer in their language. Okay, now how algorithm help us to do this? So to write any computer lab program, first we write the algorithm or the steps, because just now we saw what is a program is a set of instructions only that we give to computer, right? So to do this, before we have to write the algorithm, that is a step-by-step instructions or the steps that needs to be followed to do any task. So we write the algorithm in a simple language and then we convert that into a language understood by computer. Clear? So algorithms steps are mapped to programming statements. Now, what are the advantages of an algorithm? Now, as you have understood what algorithm is, now let's try to understand what are the different advantages of algorithm. So the very first advantage you can understand, because it helps us to write computer programs. So a good algorithm helps us to write very good programs, very effective and efficient programs. And second advantage of algorithm is that it helps us to think logically, to find out the best way by which you can solve a problem or reach a solution. So there are two advantages of algorithm. One is it helps us to write very good and effective and efficient programs. And second, it helps us to think logically to find the best way to solve a problem. Like we have a problem, and if we jot down the steps to solve it, we think logically, right? Whether this is the correct step to follow or we think of another step, right? So it helps us to think logically to find out the best way to solve a problem. Clear? Algorithms can be represented in two forms, in two methods basically. So one is our pseudocode and another is flowchart. So we can represent an algorithm in by two methods. One is pseudocode and another is flowchart. Now let's try to understand what is pseudocode. So pseudocode, in this method, we represent algorithm in a simple natural language where we mention the steps to perform a specific task. So in a very simple natural English language, we use phrases from English language only to specify the steps to perform a task. There is no specific standard format that we follow to write a pseudocode. It is any short phrases from English we can take it to write pseudocode. Clear? So let's see some commonly used words that we use. So one is input. Like suppose you have to add two numbers, right? So for adding two numbers, what we need to do? We have to input that two numbers, right? So input, and then you accept that two numbers from the user, correct? And then you have to plus and you have to add those two numbers, right, to find the summation of that, right? So for that you will compute, right? You will perform a calculations, right? So second step will be compute those two numbers that you got in this step. And the third will be like after computing, after I have taken out the summation, I need to display that to the user, right? So I will print it to display the output message. Clear? Similarly, you can take any other example also, like suppose you have to like in the case of your brushing of your teeth also. So what is your input there? Your brush and a toothpaste, correct? Compute is like you're applying the toothpaste on the brush and also to brush your teeth, and then print is like finally you see your teeth, right? So that's your output. Okay, so in pseudocode we use simple natural language to specify the steps. There is no specific standard that we follow. So any, instead of input you can use other word also, whatever you want. But generally we take it as input, compute, or instead of compute you can use calculate also, right? And then you print or display, you can use whatever you want. Clear? Okay students, so we have understood pseudocode. So let's try to write a simple pseudocode for an example. Okay, so in your book you have a question given here. If you see this one, right? Write the pseudocode to display the total amount after accepting the unit price and quantity of a product from the user. So here what they are asking us, we have to display the total amount after accepting unit price, like price for one product, okay, and the quantity so of a product. So like if there be 10 quantities of a product, like 10 quantity I am purchasing, and one, the cost of one is 5 rupees, so 10 I'll get it for 50. So that 50 amount, the total amount, we have to display. So let's try. So what will be the pseudocode for this? So very simple. So first input, which you know we have to use that English phrase. So input, what we have to input? Accept the item quantity. So what is the quantity? Okay, then second input will be the unit price, correct? We'll accept the unit price from the user. Now once we get the quantity, we got the unit price. Now what we have to multiply these two to get the total amount. So the third step will be compute, which is calculate total amount by multiplying quantity with unit price. Now fourth, once we get the total amount, we will display it. So the fourth step is print and display the total amount calculated in the step up. So this is your pseudocode for this example. So I hope it's clear and very simple, right? So now I hope pseudocode is clear. So now let's move on to flowchart. So we saw there are two methods of writing an algorithm. So one is pseudocode, which we have understood right now. Now we move on to flowchart. Now what is flowchart? And it's very important also to you. Flowchart is a diagrammatic representation. What it is? It is a diagrammatic representation of steps. Like here you saw in pseudocode, we write, it's like step by step, we just write in simple English language the steps, right? But there it is written, right? But in flowchart, we draw a diagram for the steps instead of writing, right? So flowchart is a diagrammatic representation of steps which we take to solve any problem or a task, whatever, right? So it's basically the pictorial representation. Since it's pictorial, diagrammatic, so you can understand, it's easy to understand. It's very easy to understand flowchart. This is one of the advantages of flowchart over pseudocode, is like flowchart is much easier to understand because it contains certain symbols by which we can represent the steps. Now let's try to understand different symbols that we use in our flowchart. Okay. So the very first symbol is the start and stop box. So in a flowchart, we always start. So in a flowchart, when we write the step, the first step always be a start and the last step always be a stop. Okay. Okay. So a flowchart, when we draw a flowchart, we always have the first step as the start and the last step as stop. So just for an example, I'll explain you this flowchart, but just to show you. So the first step in any flowchart will be start and the last step will be stop. Now this start and stop is enclosed in this rounded rectangle. We call this as rounded rectangle. Okay, and this is also known as, the start and stop box is also known as a terminal box. Clear? Now coming to the second box. Now, so we have started the flowchart. So to input anything, if we have any steps where we have to take input from the user or we have to display something, output something, right? So that is enclosed in this parallelogram. So for any input and output job, we will use this parallelogram. So like in the above example that we took for pseudo code, there if you see, like we have to input, if you have seen, like we have to input quantity and the unit price, correct? So this two will come, this input will come in the parallelogram, which is this one. Clear? So this is known as input output box, parallelogram. Now to process anything, like in pseudocode you see, like we have to calculate the total amount by multiplying this and this. So this, any calculation will come inside a rectangle, which is known as process box. So if we have to compute, calculate any kind of thing, that comes in a process box. Clear? Now the fourth symbol is a decision box. Like in some of the case, we have, in some of the tasks when we are performing, we have to have some decisions to be made. Like suppose, just take a simple example of brushing your teeth, right? There you might you brushed your teeth, but then you might have a check, like you have to take a decision whether my teeth is clean or not. If it's clean, you stop it. If it's not clean, you again brush, right? So you have to take a decision based on how well your teeth are clean, right? So for any decision related tasks, steps, we use decision box, which is a diamond shaped box. And it will always have yes or no coming out from it. Yes or no coming out from it. So based on a certain condition that we give here, if that condition satisfy, if it is yes, we do some work here. If it is no, if it doesn't satisfy, we do some other work here. Clear? So that is the decision box for you. Now we have the flow line. So to connect all these boxes, we need flow lines, see how it is flowing. Like if this condition satisfied, will flow this way, that way. So the flow lines, we use it using this arrows. And the last symbol that we have is a connector. Like suppose when sometimes now we draw a flow chart, it be a little big, like there are many steps, and in a single page you cannot fit that flow chart. So to connect flowchart which might be very long or span in one or more pages, then we use this connector. I'll show you how do we use this connector. Okay, so connector is represented by a circle. So is it clear the different symbols? So the first and the last of a flowchart will always be a start stop box, or we also call it as terminal box. Then to input or output anything, we use this parallelogram. Then to process anything, we use this rectangle. For any decision, we use the decision box, which will have either yes or no coming out from it. Then we have the flow lines to connect the different boxes. And then we have the connector. When our flowchart is very long or it spans to more pages, we use a connector. Clear? So let's now try to draw a simple flowchart for the pseudocode that we wrote. Okay, now since we have understood flowchart, now let's try to create one flowchart for the pseudocode that we wrote a little earlier, right? To display the total cost amount for a quantity and the unit price given, correct? So now to create a flowchart for this, what we need, the first thing is a start box, right? So we will have a start box. Let me add a text. So we have a start, correct? After start, we have to accept a quantity from the user, right? So we need input output box. Remember what is the input output box? Which is the input output box? This is a parallelogram. So let's try and take a parallelogram. So we have a parallelogram. So we input quantity, correct? Now we need another input box because we need the unit price as well. So let's try to have another input box. So we have the unit price here, correct? Now all this needs to be connected, right? From start it has to be in a flow. So we will use this, the flow lines, okay, to connect different boxes. So let me just take so we will have a connection here, okay, and same way we will have another connection between these two, okay. Yeah, just take a better one from here, okay. So we have this, correct? So now we have started, then input quantity and input unit price. This will be input unit price, correct? Correct? Okay. Now after this input, what we need to do? We need to calculate something, correct? We need to calculate the total amount by multiplying. So calculate means we are doing some sort of processing or calculations, right? Processing. So we'll need this process box. So we need a rectangle here, correct? So let us insert a rectangle here now. Okay, so in rectangle, what are we doing? We have to calculate, right? So it will be amount equal quantity into unit price. Clear? So here we have calculated the amount. Now once the amount is calculated, we have to display the amount to the user, right? So in that, again, we need a flow here. So we need, so to display which box we need? Input output box, right? The same as the input box. So let us copy this only. So we need, so we will here display amount, correct? We will have again an arrow. See, all these boxes should be connected by this arrow lines, okay? And then finally this is done, but it's still not complete because finally we need to have a stop, which is very, very important. As I said, in a flow chart always starts with a start and a stop. So this will be your stop. Clear? Now we'll just add a line. So this is our flowchart for the pseudocode. I hope it's clear. Now let's see the examples given in your book for the flowchart. So see, the first is to buy a new bag if the book said cost is less than 1000. So see, here we will use a condition. Here what is our question given? Ki we will buy a new bag only if the book set cost is less than 1000. If it is less than 1000, we'll buy both the book set and the bag, but if it is more, then we'll not buy. Very simple. Then we'll not buy the bag, only the book set. So the question is, you will buy the book set and a bag if it is the cost is less than 1000, but you will buy only book set if the cost is more than 1000. So see here, you will, this is a pseudo code. See, you input the price because you have to know the price. So, and then you will check if price is less than 1000. If it is, then what we are doing? If it is less than 1000, then what we are doing? Buy both book set and bag. Else means if price is more than 1000, then we are buying only the book set. So this is a pseudo code. In your normal English we have written. Now flowchart, how do we drive? See, first is always the start C and the last is the stop, as I said you. Then we have to input the price. So we have taken input output box. Remember, start and stop box is also known as terminal box. Correct. Now here we are using this decision box because we have a condition here. If price less than 1000, if it is yes, price is less than 1000. If it is yes, see, they have put a yes here. They're checking. If it is less than 1000, then buy both book set and a bag. See, this is in under a processing box because it's a you are doing certain kind of processing, right? If it's yes, and then see, it's coming back to stop. You cannot leave this hanging here without putting this. It always, all the boxes should finally come to stop. So if it is yes, we will buy book set and bag and then stop. But if price is not less than 1000, means it's greater than 1000. If it is no, then buy only the book set and then stop again. Clear? I hope this is clear. Correct? Now let's move on to the other example that is given, the second example. Okay, so now other example is very simple, to calculate the sum of two numbers. Just sum, there is no condition, nothing. So your pseudocode will be you input one number, input the second number. So your pseudocode is simple, input one number, input the second number, then you compute the sum of this and then print the sum, right? Flowchart is also very simple. So first is your start and the stop box, which is the terminal box, right? Then in the input output box, you will input these two numbers n1 and n2. And then in the processing box, you will sum this. See, in the processing box, we will process, we will calculate this. And then again in the input output box, you are printing the sum. And then stop. Very simple. Nothing complicated here. Correct? Clear? So I hope flowchart is clear now, right? Okay, so team, let us quickly revise, students, what we have done till now. So we have done algorithm. So what was that? That was step-by-step instruction that we give for any task. Programs, then we saw computer program, which is a set of instruction given to computer to perform any task, but in a language understood by the computers. Then we saw different advantages of algorithm, which was what? We can write very good programs, very efficient and effective programs can be written using algorithm, and then it improves our logical thinking, right? Then what were the different two ways to write algorithm? One was pseudocode, another was flowchart. So using pseudocode, we use simple natural language phrases of English we saw, and flowchart is a pictorial representation. Clear? I hope no doubt till here. And just students mug this up, like to draw a flowchart we have some softwares like eDraw, SmartDraw, Visio. Using this we can draw a flowchart. And simple flowcharts you saw how I used in Word only, we drew them. Okay, but for complex flowcharts we do use such software: eDraw, SmartDraw and Visio. Clear? Okay, so now let's start with our last topic, which is programming construct. Okay, So how do we construct or write our program? So basically, whenever you write a computer program, there are three ways in that program that can turn up. Okay, so those three ways are: one is sequence, another is selection, and another is repetition. Now let me tell you what are these three. See, sequence is when if a program is written and executed one after the other in a sequence, means step 1 first, step 2, then step 3, step 4. You're not leaving any step or you're jumping to another step from maybe step 4 to step 6. No, it's like in sequentially you are running or executing the instruction one after the other. So that is sequence. Like when you try to add two numbers, like, so that instructions come in a sequence. Like we input that two number first, then we add it, and then we display it. So here one after the other we come in a sequence. Like you cannot first input the number, then display, and then calculate. It won't work, right? So you have to first input, then calculate, and then display. So it comes in a sequence. Like here, see in your book, there is an example given to find the area and perimeter of a rectangle after accepting length and breadth. So here what happened? We have to calculate area and perimeter after we accept length and breadth, right? So how should it go about? We have to first accept length and breadth. Input should be the first step. Then we have to calculate the area, which is length into breadth, then perimeter, which is 2 into length plus b, right? And then we finally print that area and perimeter and stop it, correct? But you have to follow this sequence, right? You have to follow this sequence. We cannot do this first, then this second, then this third. No, it has to go in a sequence. So this is called sequence construct in a program. Clear? Now the second comes is selection. Selection is your decision. Remember the decision box in flowchart also we use, where we have to take some decisions. So selection is where you have certain condition, and based on that condition you select some step. Okay, like for example, as I told you before also, example of your brushing your teeth. So when you brush your teeth, you check whether your teeth is clean. If it is clean, so you are making a decision here based on the cleaning of your teeth. If it's clean, then you stop brushing, wash your brush and then stop. But if it's not clean, then you again go and clean again, right? So here we have a condition of checking our teeth, if it's clean or not, and based on that we take the decision. We do the selection. So selection is where the execution of instruction depends on a condition. Okay, now let's take an example that is being given here. A person is eligible to vote if her age is greater than or equal to 18. So here there is a condition. If a person is greater than or equal to 18, then he can vote, else he cannot vote. So very simple. You start it, you input the age of the person, correct? And then check, is the age greater than 18 or it's less than 18, right? If it's greater than or equal to, see, if it's yes, then you print it, he is eligible to vote, and then you stop. See, your arrow should come here, remember all this. And if it is no, then you just simply say not eligible to vote and stop. So here, see, it doesn't come in a sequence here. It's not like this first, this second, this third, fourth, fifth. No, here first, second step. In the third step, we are doing a selection. Either we go this way or we go this way. Okay, so here it's a selection. Clear? And in a sequence, it's a single line. From top to bottom, we are coming together. I hope it's clear now, right? So now let's move on to the other examples. Let's see. Okay, now let's try to understand this problem or this example from your book. So based on the student mark, we have to decide which grade he will get. So if the marks is greater than 90, grade is A. If marks is greater than 70 but less than 90, grade is B. and if marks is less than 70, grade is C. So here what should be our input? Marks. Correct. So we will input marks here. So our first condition here will be, is marks greater than 90, greater than equal to 90? If it is yes, then we'll print grade A and we move down to stop. Clear? Very simple. Now, if marks is not greater than 90, that means marks is less than 90. Correct? But now we have to check if marks is greater than equal to 70 also. It is, if it is coming to no, that means here the marks is less than 90. Correct? Now here, now we have to check if marks is greater than equal to 70. So this second condition will satisfy. So if it is greater than 70 and no mate has come, that means it is less than 90. So yes, print grade B and then we go to stop. Now if the marks is not greater than 70 also, that means marks is less than 70. If it is coming to this no wala loop, that means marks is less than 70 only. Correct? So here we will directly print grade C. You don't need to check this again, because if it is greater than 70, if it is not, then of course it is less than 70 and we print grade C and we stop. Clear? Now let's move on to our last topic. Now let's move on to our last topic, which is your repetition and looping. So see, we have seen sequence. Sequence is where we follow top to bottom approach sequentially, one after the other the steps are being executed. But in selection, how is it been done? We have a condition, right? Based on that condition, a selection is being made. So this is selection for you. Now the last is our repetition or looping. Now what do you understand by repetition or looping? See, repetition from the word itself you can understand you're repeating something, correct? Something that goes on repeating, like you're jumping on this, so maybe 20 times, 30 times, or maybe you're doing anything like 10 times, more than something, right? So repetition is same task you are repeating again and again. Okay, so like if I come back to my example of teeth only, so till the time your teeth is completely white, you keep on brushing. So you are repeating the task of brushing your teeth, that step of brushing the teeth until unless your teeth is complete white. So this is repetition or looping. Okay, in programming language, this repetition is known as a loop or an iteration, we call it. So in our programming language, in our programs, this repetition of any steps is known as iteration or loop. Iteration or loop. So what is loop? A loop is an execution of a set of instruction or program statement multiple times till the condition is satisfied. So like you see, brushing your teeth till your teeth is white. So your condition is your teeth should be white. Till that time you keep on brushing. So you are repeating that task again and again. Correct? So that is known as loop in programming language. Okay, so in loop, so what are the elements of a loop or a repetition? So very simple, you will have a condition and a counter whose value is increased or decreased. I'll explain you what does that mean. So you have a condition there, condition you know, like you're repeating how many times you have to repeat, that is your condition, and counter will be times, like 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. So you have to keep increasing your counter till 10 times. If I have to brush, so means 10 times that counter will go. Clear? Now let's try to understand this with an example. Okay, now see, if I see this example from the book itself, here we have to display the word programming 5 times. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to display. So see, suppose if you had to write just to display programming once only, so what should be your step? How should be your flowchart be? Very simple. It will be just start print in this input output box, we will print programming and then we stop. That is one time printing, correct? Let me just do for you. So we just need 3 box. I'll just do it. So okay, so if we have to print programming for one time, it will be like this, right? Start, print programming, stop. That's it. Now suppose I have to print this 5 times. How do you do? Either you have to put this box 5 times here, print 5 times. But this is just 5, so you can make 5 boxes and you can put. But if I say 100 times, you cannot make 100 of these boxes, right? So in that case, we have to take one counter and keep on increasing that counter till this goes on. So how we do here, see your book. So what we will do here, we will take a count 1. So is count less than equal to 5? If it is less than equal to 5, means I have to, if it is yes, if it is less than, means I have to still print programming and then increase the count by 1 and again go back. Once I have printed 5 times, I will stop it. So here, when I have to print this programming 10 times, so what will I do? I'll just take a counter. Okay, so I'll have this box. So I'll put here count. You can take count or any other value. You can take a is equal to 1 also. Any value can do. Okay. So here it will come a little here for me. So count 1. Now I'll check if count is greater than 5. Okay. So here I'll put a condition here. Condition box. Is count less than equal to 5? Wait, I have to shift all this. Let me shift. Okay, so see, I have put one count is equal to 1. Now I check, is this count, I have to print programming 10 times suppose. So I'll check, is count less than equal to 10? Okay, if it is yes, if it is less than equal to 10, then I have to print programming again, correct? Because it has not been printed 10 times, right? So first count 1, it will check is count less than equal to 10 now because count is 1. So it will come here, print programming the first 10. Now I will increase this count by 1 because I have already print by 1, right? So I'll make it count is equal to count plus 1. Let me just increase this. Okay. So here I'll print programming. Now I'll make count is equal to count plus 1. Now my count became how much? Tell me. 1 plus 1, 2. Correct? It's 2 here, right? So from here it will go up again here. I'll do the arrow. I didn't do. Let me just add that. Now here see, count became 2 here in this line, correct? Then I'll go up again in this condition. I'll check. See, my arrow is going up again. Now I'm checking again. Is count less than 10? No, it is 2. So 2 is again less than 10, right? So it will again come here in this line. It will again print programming. Now second time it has printed. Now it will again come down, correct? Again my count will increase. Now my count will become what? It will be 2 plus 1, which is 3 now. Again it will go up. Is count less than 10? Still 10, less than 10. So it will again print programming. Now 3 times programming printed. Now this count will become 4. Now 3 plus 1 it will go. So till like this 10 times it will go till the time your count becomes 10. 9 plus 1, 10. Till 10, 10 less than equal to. So 10 means in 10 also it will come here, right? Now when it is 10 plus 1, 11. Now when it goes up, is count less, is count will be now 11 here. Value of count is 11. So is 11 less than 10? Less than equal to 10? No, right? So it will come here. No, and then you have to stop it. So we will go down to stop. Correct? So if count is greater than equal to 10, then we have to come and stop. I hope this is clear. So here if you see, this step is been performed, this particular step, print programming, is being performed repeatedly 10 times until and unless this condition is satisfied for us. Once this condition is satisfied, we will stop it. So is it clear? The repetition. So the programming, so same way you can just go over this example as well. Here you have to display the total marks of 3 subjects for 10 students. So see how they are doing. We are starting, so 10 students. So we will take a count for student, right? So student count 1, let it be. So first we'll check. So this counter we have to check, na, is student count less than equal to 10? If it is yes, then we'll input marks, all the 3 marks, then the total, then print total. Then we increase the count. So here for 1 student this has been done when student count is 1. Now here student count will become 2, 1 plus 1, it will go up again it will check it is less than. Now for the second student, again the marks input, then total will do, and then print 2. So for second student also done. Now student count will be 2 plus 1, 3. Now it will again go up. So like this 10 times it will go, and in the 11th time this condition will not satisfy, so no, it will stop. Here there is one mistake, this should also go and join here, stop. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Okay, team, student, I think this wrong. This should not go here, right? Correct. This should not go here because stop will only come when this condition is not satisfied. Not from this line, the stop will come. Okay, the same mistake I did here. So this stop will not come here. Okay, this will go up only, and stop will only come when this no we put, and this stop will come here. Clear? So I hope this complete chapter is very clear. And this connector, we use this connector symbol, which is, why do we use, like suppose we are drawing something like here only, I am drawing this flowchart. Now till here this is my page. If it completes here but still flowchart should continue, I want to continue the next page, then we put a connector like this. So we'll just put a circle A, and here we will start with A only again. So means these two are connected. These two flowcharts are being connected. Clear? So I hope this complete chapter is now clear. Thank you. Thank you, students. Bye-bye.